welcome everyone to our coffee talk. Although, depending on where you are, it's either happy hour, which is most likely, or coffee. So if you can, grab your favorite drink and come join and chat with us. My name is Dorothy Lee, and I'm the VP of Business Intelligence with AWS. I've had the privilege to be part of Amazon for over 20 years. Although if you would ask me, if you would interview myself 20 years ago, I would have told you that never in my wildest dreams I would have thought that Amazon would have such a deep impact in both our personal and work lives, or that I would be here for this long and still having fun doing my job. So, today this is really our time together to have a casual conversation about what it's like to work at Amazon, what's different about Amazon, what are the challenges facing all of us as women, whether you're new to the workplace or just starting out or your mid-career. And more importantly, we want you to be part of it, participate, ask us questions, share whatever the challenges you have, especially in this environment where everything's virtual and a lot of us have to wear lots of different hats. So again, this is meant to be a casual conversation. Share anything, ask your questions in chat or raise your hand. We really appreciate you being here and spending time with us. So let's begin. Let's start with just an introduction of my colleagues here and talk about a little bit about yourself, your career progression, and maybe a little bit of fun facts about you. I'll start with Tatiana.
Thank you, Dorothy. So my name is Tatiana, and unlike Dorothy, I've joined Amazon only last year. And prior to joining Amazon, I worked at some other large companies, including Microsoft and Tableau, as well as like small companies. And I work in the same organization as Dorothy. I'm very passionate about helping people analyze their data and see and find those insights in the data. And I'm very happy to join Amazon.
Tiffany? This is good because
Hey,
Tiffany and Kathy, we have not, I should just show some of your profile. We've not really known each other, so it'll be a really good conversation for us to have.
Yeah, it's great getting to know you guys more too over this call. Hey everyone, I'm Tiffany. I am on the Aurora MySQL team. I joined out of college actually as a software engineer, and I've been on the team for 7 years. So it's been an incredible journey, a really fun experience from joining the team before the product was launched to where we are today as the fastest growing service in Amazon.
Great. Kathy?
Hi, I'm Kathy Nunez, and I'm on the same team as Tiffany. Although I came from a different route, I had 20 plus years at another large IT tech company, IBM, where I joined as a college hire there. And I spent my development time doing everything from low-level firmware up to owning and directing the mainframe storage systems that connected around the world. And before I left, I was in their machine learning Watson Health. So I'm a varied path, lots of different technology. I joke that technology is my hobby, people are my passion. I came to Amazon because a couple of former colleagues kept asking me to consider it. And, after a conversation with the Amazonians, I knew I wanted to be part of the team. So I've been here for 2.5 years, been able to take Aurora from an infant service up to its maturing 5-year anniversary. And a fun fact, I met my husband at Officer Basic, so I was in the military. That's how I paid for my college.
Oh, wonderful.
Awesome.
And where are you based? Actually, just where are you? I'm in Seattle. Tatiana's in Seattle. Tiffany, where are you?
I'm in California. Our office is in Palo Alto, but I'm in my home in Sunnyvale right now.
And I spend most of my time out of the Palo Alto office, but I am currently in Southern California.
Right. Anu?
Hi, I am Anu Gajiraju. I have been with Amazon for 4 years. I'm currently working in Amazon time stream database, trying to get that to a GA. Prior to that, I have been in Alexa, I have been in S3. Yeah, and prior to joining in Amazon, I have been a manager in several other telecommunications companies, Lucent Technologies, Ribbon Communications. And I think I really like about Amazon is the scale at which we operate. And S3 was one of the biggest services that I've ever worked on. I think the one of the biggest services in the industry, and the problems that I faced there and the kind of things that we had to do really, I think, expanded the way we think. And that's one of the reasons I'm really excited about working at Amazon. And now I'm trying to build a similar kind of a service. Hopefully, we will get to that level in my latest job. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Now we've had, I guess Tiffany and I joined. Tiffany, you joined Amazon right after college. I joined Amazon about 2 years, so almost like right after college. Although I have to warn you, you could be here for the next 20 years and still having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But Tatiana, Kathy, and Anu, you've all had experience working at small and big companies. And so we all have had a lot of experiences working at different types of jobs, different types of roles and companies. What's something about Amazon that really stands out? Maybe you can think about a leadership principle for those of you that don't know. Amazon has a set of codified leadership principles that is really defines our culture. So what is something different, or what's that leadership principle that really resonates with you?
So for me, the one thing that resonates with me is I initially in my career I work for big companies, Lucent Technologies, AT&T, Bell Labs, several different versions of the telecommunications companies tend to be big, and also have a lot of resources, but also a little bit of a bureaucracy and a process. And I also worked for Merck, which is a pharmaceutical company, which is also again big and very heavy on process. After that, I switched to a startup company, also telecommunications, but that we were in the startup, and I really enjoyed that. More quick thinking, bias for action, having a lot more responsibility than I would when working, and a lot more direct, ability to do things. What struck me with Amazon is you get best of the both worlds. You are a huge corporation with a lot of resources and ability to get things done, but you are also working in a small and nimble teams where you do have a lot of responsibility and ability to kind of get things turned around quickly and deliver results to our customers. So I think that's that customer obsession, if you want to talk about a specific leadership principle, I think that's one of the things that exemplifies Amazon, sets it apart from everybody else.
Anything that stands it apart. Anyone else wants to share?
I also want to mention that customer obsession for me is my favorite leadership principle for several reasons. Like, first of all, I like helping customers. So every day I'm working and doing something I know it matters to other people. And also what it helps me is day to day when there is some situation, we are having discussion, like design how to build this software, like go this route versus that route. Because I know that my peers are also customer obsessed, when we have this dialogue and trying to find like the right solution, I know that we have common foundation, and it never feels to me that like we are competing against each other. It's just like we have shared goal and we are doing the best thing, and that helps a lot.
Right. Yeah. At the end of the day, you all have the customer in mind. And that reminds me, one of my former bosses has always said, at every meeting, just remember there's an empty seat, who's our real boss, and that's the customer at that seat. And think about all our discussions or decision made on behalf of that person that really is at the seat. at the head of the table, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. And if you call any Amazonian at any hour of the day for a customer related issue, they're there to help you. And that's not something I always saw at other companies.
Yeah. Tiffany, do you want to share or?
Yeah, I was all three of them. Customer obsession is definitely the one that stands up. And not just in addition to everything that they said, one thing that also just really stands out is that I think it helps you build a better product. I think Tatiana touched on that. But when you think about what you're building from the engineer's perspective, you're not just trying to make something, you're trying to think about what works best for the customer, what are customers looking for. And I think that really helps you think big and figure out something that works really well.
That's a really good point. And I noticed, I knew you said you had worked at Alexa, right?
Alexa, yeah.
Yeah.
We can, yeah.
Right. And one of the things I love about Alexa, which really talks to that customer obsession, how that makes a better product, is that when you think about the technology that's in Alexa, the key pieces of its technology, the natural language processing, something called far field sensing, which is that's a technology that allows you to speak to Alexa from one corner of the house to another without shouting.
Yep.
And of course, the server technology that's delivering music and all of that. None of that was by itself new. But what we did was really work backwards from the customer and then integrate these technology into a pretty innovative product. And I think so through that lens, you can do, to your point, Tiffany, I think it's really it's one of the superpowers of one of the key, secret ingredients, if you will, for our product development. I want to share one leadership. Actually, it's one sort of cultural things that we do that may not be as obvious from the outside. And this is a thing. What most of us say to be able to the ability to disconfirm our own bias. And it's not something that's actually. Maybe the leadership principle that we talk about here is deliver results. But when you think about it, the thing that really allows all of us to be able to deliver results, one of the key ingredients is that we're able to really seek the truth, to disconfirm. All of us have a lot of bias about whether what we have is right, and to be able to disconfirm our own bias. In other words, you won't really hear we say socialize an idea, right? Because it's kind of a condescending one to say, hey, it implies that my idea is right. I just need you to get on board. My idea could be completely wrong if I talk to you. So we never say socialize an idea, or we shouldn't say that. And so that's one of the things that I think could be very different from other companies. So that's just something I wanted to share. It also resonates with me. A lot of the leadership principles resonates me as how almost, how I think about life in general. And maybe that's why I also have been able to be here for so long.
And that really resonated with me as well, Dorothy, when I came, because I wasn't used to getting a lot of feedback. And it wasn't that the people were attacking my idea or me, they were working to make the best solution for the customer. And I really do think that that cultural difference makes a difference in our end product.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Now, I'll talk about something that may be a perception and how some of the challenges we may face. So I know for myself, part of this disconfirming and part of the drive to seek the truth requires me to speak up. And it's one of the sort of obstacles that I've had to overcome in my own personal career and my own, just the way I am, because I tend to I'm not as much of a extrovert. I tend to be, in fact, less confrontation seeking. This is also not, I guess it's not about seeking confrontation, but my natural tendency is not to speak up. So over the years, I've really had to really overcome my tendency to be quiet in meetings and to be able to really speak up, because it's really makes a difference for what I believe in, or to be able to get the truth across. And so that was something, a career obstacle that I had to overcome. And I wanted to ask, what were some of these things that you guys have had to overcome? And what were some help that you've been able to get along the way?
Yeah. I think that resonates with me. You know, I had a similar kind of, I think I would say, personality. One of the things that I really like about Amazon in specific is the focus that is given to writing. Right, because not all of us are communicate the same way. Not all of us are extrovert, personalities. So the focus on Amazon, where most of the meetings, and for folks who are outside of the Amazon, we go into a meeting and we read a document. Right. So basically, this is the most importance is given to the data and the instead of a presentation or how you were able to convince others, even you were able to convince others by actual presenting the data,
Right.
the hard truths, and how the customer benefit. Those are the things that we are looking for. So I think that's one of the ways where I think Amazon kind of brings people together. So if you are not a very good speaker, you still have a space if you are able to actually present the data. And the focus is not again on a beautifully written document. In fact, Amazon actually says that stick to the facts. No use need for flowery language or hyperbole, none of that stuff. Just stick to the facts, present the data, and that's how, and it should speak for itself, and the customer benefit ultimately, that is going to drive everything that we do. So I think that's one of the things I really like about Amazon. And as you have done so in your career, I had to also kind of learn to speak up, and I think the preparation actually helps in that way. When you have all your data in front of you and you have put that effort in, then you're also able to confidently speak up and actually kind of defend your positions or absorb the other data much more quickly. So I think that's what I really like about Amazon. Yeah.
Great point. One of my colleagues pointed out that the way we, that this writing culture and that takes the personality out of it, and this data-driven culture actually is one of the ultimate diversity inclusion tools. You're letting that your words and your critical thinking and data do the talking and taking that personality out of the way. So others, obstacles you want to share, how you overcame it, any help you got along the way?
The obstacle that I want to share is that in the last few years, I've made brave, not perfect to be my motto in life, because I feel that earlier in my career, like I often was trying to be perfect in everything, and I was taking assignments or challenges when I already had an idea of how I'm going to execute on it, how I'm going to be successful. And if there was something like challenging and unusual, like I would spend months thinking and overthinking about that idea. But over time, I've learned that actually it's fine to like sometimes fail, but like you just learn faster. Like if you are brave, if you're like taking those challenging assignments, like you're not confident, you're not sure that you can be successful, but just go for it, do your best. And then at the end of the day, like if some things don't work out, like you know you've done your best, like you don't need to grill yourself about it, but just like don't hold back, do the best you can.
Yes, thank you, Tatiana. And I just want to, we're almost halfway in. I just want to remind everyone who's listening, joining, that feel free to ask your questions in the chat window. This is the time for you, so ask us anything. Kathy and Tiffany, anything to add?
Yeah, one thing for me was the imposter syndrome, which I think is really common for women in such a male-dominated field. I remember my very first promotion from SDE1 to SDE2. My manager and his manager said, Tiffany, we want to talk to you. So we went into the room and I was so nervous. I was like, oh no, like what did I do wrong? What happened? What are they talking to me about? And when I went into the room, they said, oh, we were promoting you to an SDE2. And it was just so funny because it was the complete 180 of what I was expecting. But that's one thing and what Anu said as well, to get that confidence. And you get that a lot from just getting the data, the numbers. And I think for me, that's something that I've been able to overcome just by working with those around me. It is a male-dominated field, but I think our team is really supportive and really helpful. So I've had a really good time in my experience here.
Yeah. And I think, you know, what Tiffany says, the team is very supportive, very helpful, willing to give you feedback, willing to help you learn. I like that it's a culture where you can say, I don't know. And, you know, if somebody does, they're gonna help you. They're going to give you advice. We learn from our mistakes. I think the process we have in place here is tremendous at objectively looking at how could we have done it better. And that we share that openly across the organization so that you can learn from others. You know, every week I'm learning something new from a different team.
Yes, absolutely. But this is, I'm going to ask a kind of question someone had asked me a while back, which is, you know, if we would go back to ourselves when we first started out, what advice would we give to ourselves back then? Or even, or if you're thinking about changing jobs, what advice would we have given ourselves when we were changing jobs, when we're thinking about career changes? I'll start. Since someone asked me, it's unfair. Someone had asked me this question a while ago. I had actually prepared this answer. One of the things I learned later on, only from my current boss, is that when you're thinking about taking on something risky, there's usually 3 types of risks. And there is a technology risk, right? This might be something that's never been done, unproven. You don't know that it's going to be successful from a technology perspective. There's a product market fit perspective. You might even have something that's groundbreaking, but it's ahead of its time. And the third one would be a people risk. So you might have a team who you might not, maybe brilliant, but may not do really well together. And by the way, these are also, you know, sort of the kinds of risks you think about as you think about doing a startup as well. And you can take 2 out of the 3 risks. I mean, you don't want to take all 3 risks. You could all 3 risks. You can take 2 of the 3 risks even. But of the risks that you take, you should never take that people risk, because everything else, in other words, everything else you could either mitigate or maybe you cannot really control, but the people are the heart of what makes a company great. And you absolutely want to be working with great people you admire and people that care about you as well. So that would be my advice to my younger self, and say, hey, as you're thinking about changing careers, absolutely know the person that you're going to be working with or working for. Don't take that risk. It doesn't mean you don't work with new people. It's just that you really need to really understand, do they have similar values with you? Do they see things, you know, are you going to be able to work well together?
Yeah. I think that's a great point, right? And I think that's where I think leadership principles really help when you are making a decision for working for a company like Amazon, right? Because it's not a small company. It's not, if you're applying for a job here, probably you wouldn't know. Probably you may have a lot of friends but maybe you wouldn't know, right? I think that's where understanding how the entire company kind of gets behind these leadership principles, and not just, they're not just like in a mission statement, but uses them on day-to-day basis to actually drive decisions and solve any kind of conflicts. I think that really is helpful.
Right.
I think I would have told my younger self to learn how to disagree and commit early in my career. I was the, people pleaser. Maybe it was that military background of yes, whatever you want. And I think I would have done better if I'd learned that sooner. And I think the other aspect is think big. I think very early in my career, I wasn't thinking large enough, and I could have had a much broader impact across the industry if I thought big from the get-go.
Right. Yeah. I think it would be the other thing I would tell myself as well.
Yeah, along those same lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, along those same lines, I think starting out, especially when you're given a task or an item to do, I was very like, okay, I can finish this, but I wasn't thinking so much about why are we doing this? What is the intent? And I think I would have told myself, like, try to think about that question first, because that will really help you think big and build a better picture and build a better product as well.
Right. We have a question in the audience that says, what is the toughest part of running a huge service and the most rewarding? I bet you all have great answers to this. Who wants to go first?
Well,
Yeah,
I'm going to
definitely.
go first. I'm going to say I'm on call today, so that's probably the toughest part of running a big service. And we have customers all over the world in multiple regions, and everything is a little bit different. So keeping current with all the changes in a big global organization and the changes that are going on with our customers is a challenge. But it's also part of the reward. Being able to help customers, going through COVID-19 and having to rapidly scale up, or in some cases rapidly scale down because their business dynamics was changing. It was really rewarding when they called and said, I need help, and we were there to help them.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kathy, you would have a great answer for that. It's definitely a tough part of the service. You have all of the customers and their requests, their bug reports coming in. You have your features that you're trying to develop at the same time, having to manage and prioritize all of that. And this, as a service, we're very customer oriented. So the work that we put in there it's tiring. It is tough, but it is, again, very rewarding seeing the impact that you have. And when you have customers that are so happy that you're able to help solve something for them, it's really gratifying to see that.
Yeah. What about as a platform service, having to prioritize requests from lots of different customers and figuring out what goes into which release? Any thoughts on that? It's a tough one, right?
It is. Yeah. It is. And you know what? We have the concept of one-way doors and two-way doors, and sometimes we make a priority call and it's not the right one. And we have to, come back to it, and admit that we're wrong and change it. I like that our roadmaps are driven by our customers, and we do prioritize them based on what we're hearing.
And you just mentioned something, Kathy, that's such an important mechanism, not just in prioritization, but also how to go fast, right? This one-way door, two-way door mechanism, which Jeff talks about in his letter to the stakeholder in 2016. He talked about what are some of the things that companies can do to maintain the velocity. And one of the things to maintain velocity is that you can't just make high quality decisions. We also have to make high quality decisions fast. And one of the ways we do at Amazon is to use through this lens of what's a decision that once you make, it's very, very hard to roll back. And that's the one-way door, Kathy talked about. And true door would be that, if you're A/B testing a page, whether the button is green or blue, you can always sort of roll back that. And for those decisions, we should be able to make those really fast. So that's a really great mechanism. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I think one of the questions is about parallel technical and managerial tracks. And I think we have both the candidates. We have a principal engineer here, and we also have a manager. So maybe Tatiana and you, Tiffany, you can talk to those, how you went from an engineer and grew into a principal engineer, and as well as you took a managerial role.
So I've actually switched between manager and engineer roles a few times, and the best role actually varies by company. And what I find great about Amazon is that as a principal engineer, I do have a lot of influence and I can help a lot of people. Whereas like in other companies, oftentimes to just be in the room and know what's going on and help influence like feature priorities and things like that, I had to have manager as like in my title. So here as a principal engineer or like senior engineer, you do participate in a lot of discussions, you have a lot of influence. So like I would say that if you are really passionate about helping people, then like manager position is the right fit for you. If you like technical challenges, if you are super excited to code something and like have it working, then engineering role is better fit for you. As we talk about challenges of running large services or like rewards, for me, it's like anytime I do something where there's a regression in the product or like something that customers are not happy about, I'm just like trying to overthink. And just like, what could have done better? And like, that goes to Tiffany's imposter syndrome. Yeah, I have to deal with that. But on the other hand, when I release something, and sometimes it looks like a small thing to me, but to customers, it might be like very, very important. And it's like, it's a great feeling knowing that you've helped like that customer unlock that deal, like, help people scale and get more value out of the service.
Yeah, thanks. The only thing I would add is that in my experience, we're super flexible and supportive of your choice, IC or not. And back to Kathy's point earlier, it's not a one-way door decision to go from a developer role to a management lead. I've had people that say, I don't really know. I really love my IC role. I want to, I can see myself being that, but I also kind of want to try the management role, kind of want to exercise the muscle. Until I've exercised it, I don't really know. And so we actually support people that want to do that. You can go to a development, a management role, and later on, you can switch back to IC. I've known a number of people that have done that. Now, to do that, you do want to make sure that you keep up with the technical, skills, and you're still practicing the craft. But we're very flexible.
Yeah, and I like that all of the managers in AWS, they are also very technical. So it's not just about the people management. They're involved in the design decisions, the products, the services that we're launching, the features. So I liked the technical aspect, but for me personally, I was also really interested in the people aspect too. So luckily, as Dorothy was saying, I was able to try the path of a manager role. And there are plenty of people on our team as well who have gone through management and decided to move back to IC. So I love that we have this flexibility here.
Good. If there's no more questions from the audience, actually we do. It says, I know that AWS engineers own things end to end, more so than other companies. What new hat did you learn or have to put on for your current role? PR, business? This is also a good one.
Well, for me personally, I joined a database business without a database background, and I was the customer voice to the customer on database issues. So I very quickly had to learn MySQL. and how it works and behaves. So
for me, it was not like that I needed to learn something, because I've worked at a startup, and in startup organization, you often wear like all the hats. One day you're writing documentation, next day you're like on support calls or helping like sales team. So, and I actually really like wearing those multiple hats, because doing same thing over and over again like becomes boring. And I like being able to like work across organization and help like in whatever area people need help.
Would you also say, because, one of the things that's different about Amazon is that because we don't just say, hey, you're an engineer, writing code is all you do. You don't get to really own a product. And we really think of an engineer as someone who's, because you're so close to customers as well, that you should be able to, you're free to actually really work with product managers, even sometimes write a PR FAQ to get an idea through. And for me, that's super empowering. It means that you alone can make a huge difference, can make a disproportionate amount of difference here than anywhere else.
That is true.
Yeah.
How have you leveraged allies to help you navigate your career? Who wants to take it?
Well, I wouldn't be at Amazon if I haven't leveraged some of my allies and my network to get here. So I think it's always very important, at whatever stage you're in, to both, reach up, reach out, reach across. I've just met 3 more people that I'm going to be, adding to I can reach out and ask questions. So, when I hit you guys up, you'll know why.
So you proactively sounds like you proactively reach out to them.
I do, because you never know when you're going to need it. For example, this week I was working an issue related to networking, and there was a couple of people I knew that had joined an area of the networking organization, and I was able to connect to them, and they got me the right person to help me with our issue.
Right. So everyone's busy if you don't reach out to them proactively, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
It definitely helps me to have my network of people that I can reach out, sometimes with technical questions, but other times just to get energy, like when I'm afraid to think big or like challenge something. And like, as I talk to them, like oftentimes they provide the support that I need, so that I feel more confident and brave, like doing that thing that I was afraid to do.
Yeah,
I think that's a great thing. I think Amazon has this mentorship network, right? And we encourage each individual, whichever stage your career is, to actually actively seek out mentorship, outside of your organization, for specifically the reason that Tatiana, you are talking about, right? You may want to present an idea to your manager or your leadership, but you just want to separate eyes on it, right? Which, you're not directly judging it, but you are able to kind of give a, separate opinion. It could be technical opinion, it could be a manager, another manager, and you actually, I know folks who have multiple different mentors for specific different, help with the leadership principles or aspects. And I think that really helps to have those kind of mentors. I have a couple of mentors outside of the organization. Sometimes, a previous managers whom I have worked with. And I think that's the great thing about Amazon. Even if you move out of a team, and I would reach out to the manager who I just left and went somewhere else and say, hey, could you be my mentor? And most 100% of the time, that usually the answer is yes. The people care about you here, then they actually take active interest in your career growth. Because when you are in Amazonian, you are looked at as an asset to the whole company. So we hire for Amazon. And I think everybody has a very good interest in helping you grow and,
And I actually have a good example to talk about mentorship. So I've joined Amazon in September last year, and I knew that I wanted to help grow, more women to grow and overcome some of the challenges that we face. And in October, a month after joining Amazon, I wanted to set up mentoring circle, and I like both one-on-one mentorship and circle where a group of people meet together, because oftentimes in these group discussions, more people get value out of that conversation, and it's a great way to build your network. So in October, I was afraid. I didn't know what exactly I'm doing, but I just knew that I need to move forward. And I found another mentor to partner with me, and we have group of women that meet once a month where we help each other. We discuss how to deal with different situations where maybe you're afraid to speak up in a meeting, or somebody took credit for the idea that you presented, or you're trying to make career decision. And it's such a supportive community.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Let's talk about our latest recent questions. I love this question. Work-life harmony. What does work-life harmony look like to you? And how do you know if you have been successful at striking this balance or harmony? So it's such a relevant, even more relevant today than ever.
Okay. Well, for me, I actually have a lot of extracurriculars, a lot of hobbies that I do. So normally I'll do triathlons, I participate in musicals and community theaters, and I love to dance. So for me, I have my dance classes and my schedules after work. And sometimes that helps me say, this is the cutoff. And that's where I make the separation of I finished my day and then I can move on to dance. And that also helps me take my mind off things and gives my brain a break. So that's something that I really enjoy that helps for me.
Awesome.
Yeah, and my family lets me know when I'm out of balance.
That's how you know. Very clear.
Yeah. They are very outspoken when they say, "You've been sitting in front of that computer since 6 o'clock this morning. It's time to move."
Yeah, those of us who have children will know what our children always tell us. The truth there.
They do. But they also, I think Amazon's a great place that gives us the opportunity to make sure that we're having the balance. And I have people that, have a 1-year-old at home and with no childcare, the husband and wife are trading off. And so, hours and days that they're working has switched. And, it's not unusual for us to hear some child in the background. We've had happy hours, across our team, and everybody brought their kids in. So, there are benefits to that as well. And I think the key to the harmony is to recognize that my harmony is not Tiffany's harmony, but
Sure.
we need to recognize what works for us and how to make it, and not to be afraid to tell our manager or our teams, etc. And also to check in. If you see somebody that's out of balance, letting them know and making sure that you can help them is the best that we can do. And I like how Amazon allows that flexibility.
Yes.
Yeah. Specifically, during COVID times, right? So we had, as a manager, I have had conversations with my team, and my managers have had conversations with us. And in specific cases, we were able to make accommodations. There were, couples working with children at home, and an 8-hour schedule, exactly 9 to 5, would not work for either of them, because they have to kind of, chop up their schedules. So some of them are able to, watch their kids, and we were able to be flexible in those things. And Amazon basically kind of provided some guidelines and principles. And some of my developers reached out to me and said, I cannot work from home anymore. I need to go to office. Some of them had cabin fever, right? And Amazon made it available so that you had the place you could go to. You have to follow the social distancing, mask, and the precautions, but there were principles set in place so that people can actually go and work from work. if they needed to. So I think it's super important during the COVID times. And I think Amazon, provides the support.
Definitely right. I think especially, I think leading with empathy is so important during this time. What I appreciate also is at Amazon, we don't have so many rules per se, but so as a result, we're quite flexible. And so we allow teams to make a lot of arrangements. So on my team, for example, we've decided to change all our meetings from an hour to 45 minutes. So we're not just go from one meeting to another. I know many other orgs, as much as well as mine, have also done mental health days, which I think everyone appreciated. That once in a while, you just need that extra day when everyone takes off. You don't have to worry about emails coming in. So we very much care about that work-life harmony. And I myself have two girls. They're first grader going on second grader, and fifth grader going to middle school. So, and they absolutely have no disregard for when I'm in a meeting, and they'll just come in. And so we see that as well with my colleagues. So it's something that I think we are absolutely accepted. And the key, to Kathy's point, is really to be able to set your boundaries, to be able to also, having that trust with your manager, with your team, to be able to say, hey, this is the time that I set for myself or for my team, and be able to respect that boundary. So we have a question that says, what advice would you give to young girls that want to pursue a career in tech? A timely question indeed.
So my girls, I also have two daughters, 10 and 13 years old. And the advice that I would give them is actually think like sometimes there's this perception that tech careers are not for girls and like it's challenging, but I actually find it like one of the best careers because you can work from home, like you're able to have more flexible schedule. And like, as we talked about work-life harmony, like what is important for me is to be able to take a break when my kids have some performance at school, or like I remember I was taking breaks when my kids were like just a few months old. I was still breastfeeding them, and just being able to set up schedule that works for me is like awesome. And you often can have that flexible schedule when you're working in tech versus like if you're working in some like hospital, like store, like there are a number of places where you have like specific shifts and it's more difficult to achieve the work-life harmony.
And also it depends on where the child is. Obviously, the young girl is in the age-based communication. So one of the things I found helpful talking to young girls is cast it from an actual user experience, like a customer experience. Like for example, what I do, like if I try to describe what S3 does or an AWS database does or Aurora does, it's not obvious or interesting. But if you cast it in a way of, hey, this is the technology that makes Facebook run or a Twitter run or things like that, it is much more resonating with them. This is the one which makes Netflix run, right? Amazon, AWS makes Netflix run, Zoom run, all of these things, right? Coming at from a use case perspective, then they find it, you can't watch movies without us. There is no Amazon Prime without AWS. So all of these things power those things. I think that is helpful to kind of, gain their interest or tickle their interest. Yeah.
And if you have a very young, girl, like I have my 7-year-old, she actually has no stereotype about girls supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. The thing that got her hooked into coding is that she found that she could do her own Minecraft mod. She loves that. She's in these little programming, like these, now they have these apps. That Tinker is one of the things that she does, and she's essentially using logic to build these Minecraft or Roblox mods, and she loves it. And so what that gives her is a sense of empowerment. And I hope that's message, and this is the message that I tell her subtly, is that tech is very empowering, and it doesn't have to be one thing or another. You can use it to build, to create.
I think that's the key. I think Yeah, I think if we emphasize the creativity aspect of it, I think a lot of young girls are interested in that aspect.
Yeah. We're almost at time, so we can take one more question. If there are no more questions, then we will close the session by saying thank you very much for coming, and thank you for our panelists, Tatiana, Tiffany, Kathy, and Anu, sharing your experience. I think we have an email list that we can share if you want to keep in touch with us. But otherwise, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.